There we go. So now we are recording. Welcome to those of you joining us from YouTube. I want to thank Itasca Bank for sponsoring this webinar. Sponsors like Itasca Bank help us to keep these webinars free for everybody. Contact me for more information on sponsoring. If you have a business that would like to sponsor our webinar, or you know somebody who would, let them know. You can also help us to keep these webinars free. When you close out of this webinar, you'll be taken to a page with a bunch of resources of things that you might be interested in, such as our native plant guide, rain barrel information, and so much more, including our virtual tip jar. If you're enjoying these webinars, I do encourage you to donate. That helps TCF to continue to do all the awesome stuff that we do, because we do so much more than webinars, really so much more. You can also check the box to become a member so you can enjoy our wide variety of members only stuff. So, and then check out that link for all the great things we're doing for our Earth Day benefit. Upcoming webinars. Oh man, you guys, next week, March 31st, we are talking Garden Refresh with Jan and Nancy. I will be not there, so Jan and Nancy will be running that webinar, and they're going to be talking about how they are redoing some of the landscaping beds in front of one of our buildings. It'll be really great. For those of you looking to refresh your own garden beds, they'll have lots of great tips for you on how to do that. April 7th, I will be back with Trisha from the Morton Arboretum talking about new invaders watch. So what are some of the new incoming invasive insects and things like that? You know, a few years ago, the whole big thing was the emerald ash borer. There's new guys coming. So those of you from closer to the East Coast may be familiar with lanternflies. They're on their way here. So she'll be talking about them, I am sure. All kinds of great stuff coming up. So with that, let's go ahead and I'm going to share my screen with you. And something else I wanted to mention. Come on. We have a plant sale coming up. So we're going to talk a lot about native plants today. One of the big questions I always get is, where do I get these plants from? Well, here's a great spot. You can order online May 1st and 2nd. If you are a member, hint, hint, nudge, nudge, you will get early access to the plant sale a day before everybody else does. Now, if you have tried any of the other plant sales that are going on, I know the Will County Forest Preserve District just had one. They sold out of plants within a day. Within a day, they sold out of like everything. They got some more stuff in. I'm sure that's gone by now too. So if you're a member, you will get first crack at all the great stuff we're going to have. We do native perennials, so all those flowers and stuff that we're going to talk about. We're going to have trees and shrubs. Because we're a farm, we've also got vegetables and herbs. So we'll have good veggie plants that we grow on the farm, so you know they're organic, and those will be available for purchase as well. We'll also have rain barrels for sale there too. So curbside pickup. So once again, touchless, you drive up, we load them in your trunk and you get on your way. So it'll be good. So that's coming up too. So just keep your eye out, check your email, check our website. There you go. Now you're in the know. All right, let's talk conservation at home. That is my contact information there if you want to screenshot that, or all the emails that you get about the webinars come from my email address too. That's my desk line. So I'm not usually in the office, so I probably won't answer it. But if you leave me a message, it does go to my email. So I will call you back. Here at the Conservation Foundation, this is our mission. This is why we do what we do, is we're protecting the health of our communities. And when we say our communities, we mean from the bugs and bunnies on up to the people, like everybody. We want to protect the health of everybody by restoring natural areas and open space, protecting our waterways, and protecting the environment in general. So if you check out this map, this shows you all of the land that we have helped to preserve in some way or another forever. So 35,000 acres, nearly 200 parcels, 43 conservation easements. So I feel like there might be one or two more since then, in 7 counties. Mostly we work in 4 counties, but you know, occasionally projects come up and there's nobody else to help with them. So we'll step in there too. So it's a lot. We do a lot. And so why is all of this important? Well, in addition to our health, it's water quality. That's our drinking water, our air quality, open space, you know, places where we like to play as kids. We want to make sure our kids have places like those to play as well. My son has recently gotten into fishing this year, and he's really learning some interesting lessons. I think he's 12 and he's learning about water ecosystems. He's learning about why it's important to have clean water, because if we don't have clean water, we don't have the insects. If we don't have the insects, we don't get the fish. So it's kind of an interesting thing, and he's learning a lot of lessons. So being out in nature, you know, kids just learn so much. And that's our responsibility to those future generations to make sure that they have those spaces to play. All right, so you're going to hear me talk about native plants, native plants, native plants. Why? Well, number one, they save you time and money. I don't want to be spending all my money taking care of a pristine green yard. I just don't. They're they're not interesting. They're boring. I find plain grass, you know, that golf course look to be really boring. I know some people like it, but I think it's kind of what we were taught means healthy, and it's really not. So native plants are 50 to 60% less costly, both in time and money, to maintain than a lawn or traditional landscaping. So when we plant these plants, which, by the way, I know that a lot of people think native plants, oh, they're weeds. They're really not. They are just as beautiful and attractive as the exotic things that we bring over from Europe and Asia. When we plant those, we get these caterpillars, right? And we need lots of caterpillars because we want lots of pollinators. We want lots of butterflies and moths. And not all of them are going to grow up, because some of them are going to go on to feed our birds. Caterpillars are a really, really important food source for young birds. Parent birds feed their young lots and lots of caterpillars. Caterpillars are very nutrient dense. They're full of lots of vitamins and minerals and things like beta carotene. Beta carotene is a coloration, it's a pigment that the baby birds, when they eat beta carotene, will have brighter plumage, which means males with brighter plumage have a better chance of securing a mate and going on to have offspring. So the more caterpillars these birds eat, the healthier they are, and the more likely they're going to be able to go on and reproduce. Plus, caterpillars are just a really nice little packet of food. Imagine, I mean, if you've ever seen one of these, you know, mom or dad birds trying to feed the babies, you see them just shove those things down these poor little birds' throats. A caterpillar goes down much easier than something like a grasshopper or a cricket. So they're super, super important food sources. And then in addition to feeding these guys, you know, we're also going to end up feeding these guys too. You know, hawks and raptors, they're at the top of the food chain there, and they need to eat too. But all this together creates a nice, healthy ecosystem, and it feeds everything. And everything sort of takes care of everything else, so that we don't end up with these explosion of populations of rabbits, or, you know, everything just kind of stays in check. So creating a healthy ecosystem in your yard means providing food and shelter for everyone. So native plants, another reason native plants are so great and why they are so much less costly to maintain, check out those roots, right? With these non-native species that we bring in, they've got really short root systems, and it's because of the soil where they developed. They're not adapted to our climate here. Our native plants are adapted to our climate, which means those cold, snowy winters, that frost snap that we get in early April sometimes, the massive amounts of snow, or the hot, dry summers. That, you know, they're used to all of that, and they're adapted to it by having those root systems that go so far down in the ground. When we do have those hot, dry summers and everything else is dying and we're having to water the lawns constantly to keep them green, they're getting their water from deep in the soil. They're fine. So nutrients, water, they can take care of themselves in these climates. Everything else, we have to kind of baby them and fool them into thinking they're from wherever it was they grew up at, or, you know, where they developed. So native plants are like, I got this, I'm good. So that's why they're less costly to maintain, because they can take care of themselves much easier. Now, I love this picture. This is sort of a tale of two cities here. We've got this path going down the middle. On the left-hand side, okay, we've got an oak tree. That's great. Oak trees are perfect for this area. They feed lots of caterpillar species. They're great. The grass, not so much. I'm going to guess this picture is probably taken in June or July, and you can really tell that grass is dormant, right? It's all brown. On the right-hand side, however, we've got all these great native flowers blooming there. We've got our echinacea, our coneflower, we've got our butterfly weed, we've got all kinds of great stuff growing there, and it's green, lush, looking really beautiful. We've got a terrace system set up there that'll capture the rainwater, so the rainwater is not washing over the surface like it does on the grass. When it rains, the water that goes across the grass, it just whooshes right across, flows right across and into whatever the nearest waterway is. Those native plants, however, because there's actually some plant material there, they've got those deep roots, they will capture and hold on to that water. So that actually helps to prevent flooding and prevent, if there's a parking lot, looks like there's a parking lot nearby, any of the chemicals and things like that that are washing off the parking lot, those native plants will act as a barrier and keep that stuff from getting into our waterways. So they help to keep our land and our waterways much cleaner. And I mean, I don't think I have to ask which one looks more attractive to you. We've got all kinds of bright, pretty flowers on one side that's probably bustling with little bees and butterflies, or, the grass on the left-hand side, which is biologically kind of inert, right? Nothing really eats it. Nothing's really doing much with it. And then we've got the geese. Okay. Geese love mowed grass. If you have one of these neighborhood ponds and it's mowed all the way down to the edge, I'm going to guess you have a big problem with geese. That's what they like. They like to be able to walk in and walk out of a waterway and be able to see in all directions. If there's tall plants and things like that around the edge, it makes them nervous. There could be a coyote hiding in there or something that would be a danger to them. So they want to be able to see in all directions. And if they can't, they're going to go someplace else. I saw a neighborhood pond nearby in Frankfurt that had a great native plant installation all around the edge, except for one little grassy area around the side there. That little grassy area is where all the geese were. And I was talking to some of the residents and I asked them if they had problems with geese, and they said, no, they basically hang out in that little grassy area. They may swim by, but they're not coming up into their yards, pooping everywhere, causing problems. And that is definitely not the norm around here. Almost everybody that I talk to that has a pond in their neighborhood, if they back up to that pond, they've got geese in their yards. They've got goose poop in their yards. They're trying to put up little fences to keep the geese from going in their yards. They cause big problems. So just having that little native plant buffer around the edge can help to keep them out. And hey, it looks a lot nicer too. And it also prevents erosion. As we mentioned, with those nice long roots, those plants will help to keep the soil in place. They also act sort of like a game of Plinko. If you remember from Bob Barker and The Price is Right from back in the day, if you imagine, instead of a Plinko chip, if you imagine a raindrop, it hits the ground. If it's in grass, it just can flow right over the surface. It can go very fast, pick up whatever it happens to encounter along the way and wash it right into the water. If, however, you have these plants in the way, they act as those pegs in the Plinko board. And so as the raindrop is going down, it's bouncing from one to the other. That's going to slow it down and mean that it can't pick up as many particles of soil along the way as it goes. So it's going to slow it down. It's not going to erode as much. And hey, I don't know about you, but I think this looks a whole lot prettier than that last picture. So, kind of do the comparison here. Look at the problems on that turf grass shoreline there. We've got all kinds of erosion going on. Guarantee you we've got geese, algae, right? The water, the rain will also pick up any fertilizers, chemical treatments that people put on their lawns. And if it's just grass, once again, it'll pick that up, wash it right into that waterway. The nitrogen out of those fertilizer treatments feeds the algae and can cause these big algae blooms. And the erosion makes the ponds over time shallower and shallower as that water gets washed into the water, causing problems. When you have those native plants, those plants will actually suck up that excess nitrogen, keep it from getting into the waterway, preventing those algae blooms. So they protect the quality of the water, the condition of the water, as well as the shoreline as well. And hey, they look a lot nicer too. And when you have things like a butterfly garden and things like, it's less mowing. This was from a park district property. They had 2 trails intersecting, and this used to be just a little grass patch with a tree in the middle of it. Kind of boring. And they had to bring the mower out every week to mow around just this little patch. It was really kind of dumb. So instead, they turned it into a butterfly garden. Now anybody who's walking or biking past gets to see these pretty flowers, the butterflies that brings with it. And they don't have to mow it anymore. It actually ended up saving them money by just this little tiny patch not having to bring the mowers out just for that anymore. Now, one of the questions I always get when I talk about native plants is, well, what about the bees? I don't want to get stung. My kid's allergic to bee stings. I'm afraid if I put in these flowers that it's going to attract too many bees. I'm here to tell you not to worry, because our native pollinators don't want to sting you. Some of them even can't. If that lower left one there, that's a carpenter bee. The male carpenter bees are like, honestly, big flying teddy bears. They don't even have stingers on them. Our native bees are way too busy collecting nectar, collecting pollen, and most of them are solitary, which means they don't have a big hive to protect like honeybees do. So they don't have that protective instinct. Also, bees, their stingers are shaped kind of like a fish hook. So when they sting you, that stinger is going to stick in your skin and actually rip out part of their abdomen when they fly away, killing them. And they know they're going to die if they do that. So it's really their last ditch effort. So you have to really try to get stung by one of these, like stepping on them, for example, which I don't recommend. I've done it, not a good time. But again, that was my fault. I totally stepped on it, bare feet, whatever. These guys are not going to seek you out like a wasp might. So I just wanted to show you the difference here between honeybees and yellow jackets. Yellow jackets are a type of wasp. These are the things you see flying around garbage cans, your bologna sandwich, a can of pop, whatever. Their stingers, on the other hand, are more like a hypodermic needle. So they can sting you over and over and over again and fly away laughing, which I swear I've heard it. Anyway, honeybees, on the other hand, like our native bees, again, their stinger is more like a fish hook. Honeybees, however, are not native here. A lot of people don't know this. Honeybees are an agricultural animal that was brought in, introduced from Europe. Most of the time, they're Italian honeybees that beekeepers get around here. They are just like chickens and pigs and cows. They are an agricultural animal that's brought in to make honey and to pollinate our crops. Our native bees, on the other hand, there are, I think I've seen 3,000 to 4,000 different species of native bees that are here, all with different behaviors. None of them have huge hives like honeybees do. Mostly they're either solitary or small, family groups. They don't usually make big hives like honeybees do, which means they don't have a big area to protect, much less likely to sting. All right, so if you're looking for native plants to put in your yard, you're not sure where to start, this is a great spot. According to Doug Tallamy, who, if you have not read Doug Tallamy's books, highly, highly recommend them. They are fabulous. He talks about the benefits of native plants and insects. And these 5 families here, the Rudbeckia or black-eyed Susans, Solidagos or goldenrod, the Symphotrichum like asters, milkweed or Asclepias, and the oaks or quercus, those families support 75% of all the native insect species here in Illinois. So there are lots of different members of these families with different looks, different sizes, depending on what you're going for. But these five, right, these are like the big five right here. These are the ones that are going to support the most, get the most bang for your buck, so to speak. And there's really great flowers in here. There's a great mix because, you know, we have things like the black-eyed Susans, which bloom in midsummer, the goldenrods and the asters, which bloom in the fall. Also, fun fact, by the way, a lot of people think they're allergic to goldenrod. They're not. The pollen on goldenrod is very big and heavy and does not float very easily in the air. Goldenrod just happens to bloom around the same time that ragweed does. And ragweed pollen is much smaller, floats and disperses very easily in the air, but their flowers aren't very showy. So people see goldenrod flowers and think, oh, that's what's making my allergies go nuts. And it's really not. So they kind of get a bad rap. So I like to clarify that because a lot of people don't like goldenrod because they think of allergies, but that's not what's making you sneeze. Anyway, milkweed, any fourth grader can tell you milkweed is what the monarch butterflies need. So if you want to bring monarch butterflies to your yard, you plant milkweed. And I've seen a couple of different numbers about how many species of milkweed are native here in Illinois. The number I've seen most commonly is about 7. There's a few, I don't know, I've also seen like 15, I don't know. But there's a few that we generally will recommend for yards because of their appearance and just how easy they are to grow. And you can just always add them to your existing landscaping. Nobody's saying that you have to like tear out your entire lawn and replant it with all this stuff. I mean, hey, if you want to, more power to you. And they are butterfly magnets. I mean, absolute magnets for butterflies. They love them. Coreopsis, there in the upper left. That's another great one. Great splash of yellow color. Butterfly weed, there in the top middle. That's a type of milkweed. So monarchs love it. Lots of other insects like the flowers as well. So that's a great, great plant to put in. Only grows up to about knee high if it's real happy. Creates kind of a nice little low, shrubby almost looking things when it's happy. So that's a great one to put in there. Yarrow in the top right. I love the leaves of yarrow. They're really lacy and delicate looking with that little white flower. That's a great one to put in there. Cardinal flower down there in the lower middle. That's a great one if you've got a wetter area. They can be a little tricky to grow, but if you can get them growing in there, boy, they are absolutely gorgeous. Very striking with that bright red color. A little on the taller side, so they just really stand out. And then we don't want to forget down there in the lower right, we've got a spice bush. There's a particular type of swallowtail butterfly that uses the spice bush as its host plant. So in addition to providing great color in the fall, it's also the host plant for a butterfly. You also want to manage your stormwater. So as we mentioned in the beginning of this, having all of these different options helps to keep our waterways clean. And one of the ways we can do that is by trying to keep rainwater where it falls. So using a rain barrel there on the left is a great option. Hook that up to a downspout that captures water that falls onto your roof. And then you can use that water in a lot of different ways to, you can use anything, watering outdoor plants, I use it to water my house plants, wash your car with it, wash your dog, I don't know. Lots of different things you can do with the water, but anytime it rains, hey, there's 55 gallons of free water for you. The picture on the right here, you have to check with your local rules and regulations. This isn't legal everywhere, but I thought this was a great option. So this homeowner had this really swampy, wet, low area in his yard. And, he said he can't get grass to grow there. It's always really wet, didn't know what to do. So we suggested a rain garden. So we just turned this low wet area into an intentional rain garden, planting things there that like the rain, like how wet it is, and really can thrive there. Not everything there is native. It looks like there's a couple of hostas there on the edge too, but that's fine. But having all these plants there look how much nicer that looks than just having this, low, wet swamp, that's all muddy all the time. So really nice way to do that. And it helps to keep the rainwater where it falls. It directs the water down into the soil as opposed to sheeting across the top of the grass. So great, great way to manage stormwater for that homeowner. If you live in Kane, Kendall, DuPage, or Will counties, contact me and I will get you to the correct person to come out to talk to you about conservation at home in your yard. I will handle all of the Will County ones, but I have coworkers who handle the others. If you are in any of these other counties here, I've got some of our franchisees who can help you if you're in Lake County or Cook County. And we are very appreciative of all of our partners there. If, however, you are outside of any of these areas, none of these places are close to you, you can go to LTA, which is the Land Trust Association. They're findalandtrust.org and find a land trust near you. They may not have a program exactly like ours, but if you're looking for ideas for planting native plants in your yard, chances are good they will have some suggestions for you. So you can find whoever your nearest land trust is and give them a call. So if this is information you want, I will pause right here so you can take a screenshot or take a picture of the screen, however you want to do it, get these people's information. If you miss it, drop me a line. I am happy to email it to you as well. Oops, went too fast there. There we go. And through this program, we have, I think at this point, we're probably over 1,000 certified properties right now. We're adding new ones every week, it seems like. This program has really taken off. And just in the 5 years that I've been with the Conservation Foundation, I have been pleasantly surprised at how much more open people are to the idea of having native plants in their yard. It's like, this is an idea that's really starting to catch on. And municipalities, homeowners associations, everybody is starting to warm up to this idea. So I'm really glad to see this becoming more normalized. Getting rid of the boxwood and fescue front lawns, getting more flowers in there, getting more native plants in people's landscaping. And everybody's got a different landscaping style, right? So we have this one I call native but neat. We've got some nice edging in there that's keeping everything nice and neat and really making it look more intentional. We've got flowers planted in clumps, which, makes it look even more intentional. Grasses lining the edges. It's great. Or you go with this way, the wild and free. This is also an equally valid choice. Many people will maybe more contain this to the backyard, especially if you live in the suburbs, because I get it. We all, we live here, we have to deal with our neighbors. We want to make nice with everybody and, not have to deal with the landscape enforcement people. But again, there are always ways of substituting things in there, of making it look nice, neat, intentional, or, letting your backyard go nuts with all of these beautiful native plants that are not weeds. This program also has a sister program called Conservation at Work. Maybe you work in a place that has native plants or has intentional landscaping using native plants. We've got a lot of places around here that are certified: Shed Aquarium, Cantini, Morton Arboretum, businesses, universities, right? All the Will County Forest Preserve facilities have now been certified. Anybody can do it. This is really something that anybody can do, and we can help you do it. This was a library, and they redid the landscaping outside, and redid the inside. They've got this huge bank of windows. They put chairs in front of the windows, and they couldn't figure out why nobody wanted to look out the windows. Well, who wants to look at that? So we helped them turn it into this. Now, all of a sudden, they've got flowers, they've got pretty grasses, they put a little bird feeder out there. So now we've got birds, we've got butterflies, and now this whole area is teeming with life. Now there's basically a line to sit in these chairs and look out the windows, right? So much nicer, so much more relaxing to look at. Or these industrial areas. Here in Will County, we are growing exponentially with these types of industrial locations, and they always have these big open spaces there. Now, whoever owns this has to pay to have this mowed once a week, maybe twice a week in the summer, right? It's really expensive. So what if instead of this, we did this? Now it's prettier as people are driving in and out of work. They can see this, they can see the birds flitting around in there and the butterflies. How much nicer would this be? And now they don't have to mow it. Their money can go into something else. You know, still needs to be maintained periodically, sure. But, you know, they can get away with mowing this maybe once a year even. So again, saving money using native plants makes it better for the people who work there, as well as the ecosystem. So what happens on a visit? If you call me and say, hey, Jamie, I want a conservation at home visit, will you come out? What's going to happen? Well, I'm going to come out. I'm going to show up. You're going to show me around your yard. We're going to take a walk around, and I'm going to have this little checklist here. Don't worry, I'm going to show you a larger version of this in a minute. So don't think you have to, you know, go get your magnifying glass. But we're going to talk about some of the different things that are on this checklist, see which ones you meet, which ones you don't, where you can improve, what new plants you could add to your landscaping. And then once we check off enough of the ones on this checklist, you get your little sign, like our happy lady there on the right. She got her sign. It goes right in her yard and it tells all of her neighbors, hey, this is an intentional planting. I know what I'm doing here. All right, let's take a look at the checklist. So we're looking at number one, native vegetation. We want to see that you've got native plants in your flower beds. So just a variety of native plants. It doesn't have to be 100%. It's okay if you've got some hostas, if you've got boxwoods or pine trees, whatever you got, it's fine. We just want to make sure that you've got some native plants in there, and preferably a majority. But again, it doesn't have to be 100%. It's okay. Native gardens, like a butterfly garden, a rain garden, and that there's some diversity. I met with a lady one time and she really liked the look of coneflowers. And she's like, well, why can't I just plant my whole yard in nothing but coneflowers? I said, well, okay, it's better than nothing, but we want to see some diversity. If you want to bring in the most varieties of pollinators or help the most different kinds of insects, you got to have a variety because not everybody eats the same thing. It's why when you go out to a restaurant, there's 50 different things on the menu. You don't go to a restaurant that only serves hot dogs, right? Everybody's got different tastes. Everybody wants something a little bit different. So by having a variety of things, that helps. And then if you live on an area that's adjacent to a waterway, that you've got a well-vegetated shoreline or some kind of buffer along the stream bank, like we talked about earlier. Okay, next, stormwater management. So we want downspouts going into a vegetated area. So either something like a rain garden or directly into a flower bed, as opposed to being directed into the storm sewers. Use a rain barrel is another option there. Having a native vegetation border around your property to, again, slow that runoff and to help keep the water where it falls. If you mow your yard, that you're using a mulching mower, having compost, which, hey, tip, in April, we will be having another composting webinar coming up, so keep an eye out for that. Adding mulch leaves to your garden beds, right? That's a great way to help your plants overwinter by using those leaves to help them overwinter. It also gives those insects who overwinter in the leaves a place to stay, so that, you know, we want to make sure they're not all crunched up and chopped up. We don't want to shred them because those insects who are using them to overwinter, we don't want to mess with them. Minimize use of fertilizers and herbicides. Again, having native plants prevents a lot of the need for that. And then if you do need to use herbicides, using them very sparingly and correctly. There are some things that you're just not going to get rid of without. I have some honeysuckle in my yard, and I can see where people have cut it down before, and now instead of having one trunk, it has 10. I mean, honeysuckle comes back angry. So when you cut honeysuckle, you need to spot treat those stumps so that they don't come back. So using those things properly. Again, that was another webinar. If you're interested in more on how to control invasives, we have a webinar on that as well. And then having paths and access for weeding. This was something I hadn't really thought of too much before I really got into this, but yeah, having a path through your landscaping is a great idea, because then not only can you actually get in there and enjoy it, but it makes it easier for you to get in to get out those little weeds when they show up. All right, and then having some habitat like bird feeders, a bird house, a bird bath, brush piles, things like that, provides habitat for the wildlife that we're bringing into our yards. And then if you want to be a conservation at home hero in your neighborhood, this is the bonus round, you can recommend us to a neighbor. I love that. When one neighbor gets involved with the program, they put their sign up, and then a neighbor comes over and says, hey, what's that new sign you got in your yard? That's a great opportunity to tell them what a great program this is, give them one of our brochures, and let's turn your whole neighborhood into this. How awesome would that be? Mentor somebody. Again, you got a neighbor who's interested and new to this. Help teach them, learn together. It's always more fun when you can do it with a friend. And then you can share plants with them as well. I love it. My dad got a big flat of milkweed plants from a nursery last year and put some in his yard, had some left over, so he gave them out to all of his neighbors. And as he's giving them out, he's telling them that, hey, this is going to help the monarch butterfly. And then you can work with us to host a tour if you've got one of these great examples of native plants. If you're really proud of your landscaping, let us host a tour there. We can invite some other conservation at home participants. And when you join the program, there is a Facebook group, if you're on Facebook, for Conservation at Home of Northeast Illinois. And all our members are on there. It's a great supportive community of people showing off their landscaping, introducing people to other plants, offering up plants for trade or to give away. And lots of help with identification of, hey, this came up in my yard. Did I plant this? What was this again? It's a great, great supportive community, only available to Conservation at Home participants. So it's a really great program and a great way to interact with other Conservation at Home members. So how are we helping here in Will County? Well, we are working on Prairie Park in Frankfort. We're helping to do restoration around this pond. And we're working with the community. We're getting the whole community involved in taking care of this, getting rid of those invasive species, getting the new good stuff in there, and really helping to turn this into a gem here in the heart of Frankfort. We're also helping homeowners associations care for ponds. So if you are part of an HOA that's responsible for a pond and things aren't quite working there the way you think they should, let us know. We'd love to help you. And then helping residents make better landscape choices through our Conservation at Home program. If you are interested in getting more involved with the Conservation Foundation, there's a number of ways you can do that. First and foremost, you can become a member. Like I said, when you close out of this webinar, you'll be taken to our website. That's got a great page on there with tons of stuff on there, but you'll also see that little button that says become a member or donate here. And go ahead and do that. You'll get lots of good things, like I said, including early access to our plant sale. So there you go. You can also visit our McDonald Farm in Naperville or our Dixon Merst Farm in Montgomery. We've got that virtual tour coming up of the farm, but you're always welcome to come out and take a walk around yourself. We have a self-guided tour there. We're not really like technically open to the public. We are a private business, but we don't mind if people want to come and take a walk around during business hours while there's people there. We just ask that you stay out of the way of our farmers, because we do have an actual working farm there. So you can also follow us on social media. That's where you'll find out about all of our upcoming webinars as well, and all of the other great things that we're doing. And you can get your yard certified like we talked about today. So with that, if something is not eating your plants, then your garden is not part of the ecosystem. This is just a reminder that we need to be okay with the little holes that we find in our plants, because that means we're doing something right. when something is eating it, that's good. That's a good sign. That means that we are a part of what's going on around there. So, all right, with that, let's see if we have any questions. Carol wants to know if we see spicebush swallowtails in our area. I know they are here. I don't know that I have expressly seen them, but I don't have, despite wanting to get one for years and saying I'm going to get one for years, I have not planted any in my yard. So it's kind of understandable that I wouldn't have seen them around here, but I definitely know that they are here. All right, any other questions? Thank you, Karen. I'm glad you enjoyed it. And once again, if you are interested in the Conservation at Home program, if you want someone to come out and check out your landscaping, if you have 0 native plants in your yard and you're just looking to get started, call us. We are happy. There is no charge for us to come out, walk around with you, talk to you about it. I mean, where else can you get a free landscape consultation, right? And because we don't actually do the work, you know, we're not incentivized to sell you anything or anything like that. All we want to do is make sure people are getting native plants in the ground. So give us a call. We'll walk out with you. If you've got tons of native plants in your yard, that's great. Give us a call. We can get you your sign. All right. Mary Lou says, milkweed roots spread and came up through the asphalt drive. Are there less invasive species? Okay, great question. Couple of things to unpack here. First off, with native plants, and this is a little bit pedantic, but with native plants, we don't say they are invasive because, as the saying goes, you can't invade your own home, right? Some are more aggressive than others are, however. There are several different kinds of milkweed. I'm assuming you're talking about common milkweed. Common milkweed is very aggressive, grows to be sometimes 6 feet tall, and spreads by rhizomes as well as by seeds. It can get a little nuts. So generally when I talk to people about planting milkweed, common milkweed is like, that's in the back, right? Up against a fence, somewhere where it's going to be out of the way and not get into anything. Swamp milkweed is a little bit lower growing. It grows about waist high, has bright purple flowers on it, not nearly as aggressive as common milkweed. And butterfly milkweed, even lower growing, that grows about knee high and has those bright orange flowers on there. Both of those much less aggressive than common milkweed, and both very, very beautiful in a native plant installation. So as far as milkweeds go, if you're talking about in the front yard, like I have common milkweed in my front yard and it looks great. It's not gonna, it's not gonna spread and go crazy like the other ones are. And as far as other native plants, it varies based on the plant. Some are more aggressive than others. It just depends on the conditions that are there. You're going to plant different things in shady wet areas or shady dry areas than you are in sunny open areas. So depending on what the area is like that you're planting in, my recommendations would change. Once again, to plug other webinars, last summer I did all kinds of webinars on what to plant in different areas. So check out the YouTube channel. If you've got a sunny open area, you're looking for things to plant in, there is a webinar for that. Or conversely, a shady area, there's a webinar for that as well. Any other questions that anybody has? Give it just a minute. If not, I want to thank you all for attending today. Again, if you don't have somebody in your area that handles conservation at home, drop me a line anyway. I can always help you via email. I've helped plenty of people through pictures and email or phone calls. And check with your local land trust. Let your local land trust know you're interested in getting the Conservation at Home program in your area. Have them reach out to us. We love new franchisees. So, and we have franchisees even outside of the state. I feel like, or we've been talking with some people even out of the state. So if you're not in our area, that's okay. Let's see, Ashley says, just moved into a new home and we're excited to get started. Should we wait a year to see what all's happening in our yard, or can we call you all in straight away? That is totally up to you. If you want to start from scratch, give us a call and we can talk about what to put where. If you're not sure what the landscaping looks like, you may want to wait a year just to see what is there and what the different conditions look like. But I would say, there's no time like the present. One of my favorite sayings is the best time to plant an oak tree was 50 years ago. The second best time is today. So if you want to get started, you can start looking at the beds and seeing, what they look like, what kind of shape they're in. Maybe start adding some compost, start a compost pile so that you've got stuff ready to go for next year. But yeah, I mean, you're welcome to call us anytime at any point in your process. You are welcome to call us and we can get started. So I hope that answered your question. All right, with that, I am going to wrap it up here. Thank you, everybody. I look forward to seeing you back in 2 weeks, but definitely if you are looking to get started, check out next week's webinar where we're doing our garden refresh. So they are expanding beds, they are moving plants around, they're doing a lot of stuff this year. So it's going to be really, really great. So I'm looking forward to watching that one when I get back. So thank you, everybody. Take care, and I will see you all in 2 weeks. Happy Easter, happy spring. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.